and subscribe right now, or this will be in your bed tonight.
Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today we are looking at the top posts from r/ProRevenge. Before we start, please subscribe and like the video. Stingy narcissistic boss negs and skimps on employees, so I damage his ego with some arsehole tax. Let's call my arsehole boss Eugene, since his stinginess reminds me of Eugene Krabs from SpongeBob SquarePants, except Krabs is nowhere near malicious. In order to display the full satisfaction of this revenge, I will have to describe a few, but not limited, things Eugene did that entitles him to being a complete jackass. For the context, Eugene owns a small company that provides artistic services of some sort and never hired full-timers, which I later learned that it was due to his stinginess. Initially, when I saw the open part-time position, I thought it was ideal for me as I had external commitments and needed some sort of income. The job offers about $550 per month. I don't live in the US. This is a rough conversion, but only required me to clock in about 90 hours a month. It wasn't a very good offer, but good enough for me as I considered myself to be inexperienced in field. Note that Eugene had seen my portfolio and knew my ability level before hiring me. The first couple of months was fine. I worked the hours I was supposed to and got paid accordingly, occasionally extending my shift at my own time due to the nature of the work, but I didn't mind. I guess Eugene saw this as an advantage he could exploit later on during my employment. It is also important to note that Eugene would often ask about my well-being, how did I spend my weekends, etc. At this point in time, it all seemed like courtesy talk, so I didn't pay much attention to it. He would ask about my previous employment and my reason for leaving, which I answered honestly, that their work system was unsuitable for me. This will be important later. Eugene gradually began to grow more impatient towards me, often blaming me for not being able to match up to his ability. Remember when I was inexperienced, thus the pay rate? Eugene had over a decade of experience in this expertise and he expected me to be at his level when I was only 3 months in. The stress was intense, and I began working longer hours just to keep up and produce work at the best quality I could. I was under the belief that, if I worked hard enough, my effort will speak. Even though this was only a part-time position, I overcommitted my time there and took pride in my work. My external commitments were barely scraping by. I was exhausted, but thought I was doing a good job until Eugene spoke to me one day. Eugene pulled me into his office and lectured me on my work etiquette, saying that I wasn't putting enough effort. He was considering letting me go. At this point, I was beyond confused. Did he really not see the effort I put in? Was I delusional in thinking that I was actually doing well and my work had been improving? I tried speaking up, but he quickly diverted the topic, telling me he knew the reason why my previous employer hated me. It was because I was lazy and uncommitted. To say I was in disbelief was an understatement. Not only did I believe I did my best with every task handled to me, Eugene had registered my flaws during casual conversations and twisted my words to his advantage. I had no idea how to react and simply asked him what expected of me. He instantly replied that he would like me to double my hours working for him at the same monthly pay rate. His reasons? It's my fault that I'm not experienced enough to produce quality work, thus it should be under my own responsibility and time to make up for it. My external commitments didn't matter, he said, as this job was my only source of income and should be kept as priority. It finally dawned to me that Eugene was a narcissistic sociopath who was only held conversations so that he could learn a person's weaknesses for his manipulation. Now, if you read my title, you will see that Eugene was not only a narcissist, but also stingy AF. Eugene is obsessed with maximizing his profits. Any business owner would love that, I agree, but Eugene is down to every cent in immoral and even possibly illegal ways. He would sell a service to a client and upon receiving the deposit, deliver something else. He was smart enough to keep his contracts vague for both clients and employees so that nobody could not take legal actions against him. More than often, his clients would be left to wit's end as it would be too late and expensive to engage another vendor by the time they realized they had been scammed. Eugene would then demanded another set of payment to deliver what he had originally promised, overcharging the client an average of 100% to 200% more than what was agreed. Eventually realizing that they'd been played, most people would be too exhausted to pursue further action and prayed for the project to be over so they didn't have to deal with his antics anymore. This inaction probably fed Eugene's ego that he could get away playing dirty every time. There are many more things I would like to rant about Eugene, but this is ProRevenge sub, not recruiting hell, so most of you would like to get to the good stuff soon. So in my country, employers are required to pay a certain amount of tax for every local employee they hire. While it is not exactly tax, it is obligated by law, and negligence will result in a hefty fine and possibly jail time. These taxes are technically contributions for the employee's retirement funds, which is payable by every employer. Employer can deduct a certain percentage of the contributions from the employee's wages. This law has its own complications, since there are a certain group of people exempted from it, such as students or interns. Now, Eugene is a classic example of narcissist who thinks that he is smarter than everyone else. He felt that he was smart enough to evade the law by drafting a contract with vague details to protect himself, and was deluded enough to believe that everyone would believe him as long as he sounded convincing. In other words, he thought of people as sacks of potatoes with no opinion of their own. If anyone was to have a perspective, it had to be his way or the wrong way. I stayed in Eugene's company for about 4 months before I felt too mentally overwhelmed. On the day that I left, I called in to check on my contribution account, and just as I had expected, Eugene hadn't paid a single cent over the past 4 months. The officer on the other end of the line asked if I would like to report this as a case. Guess my answer. A week later, I received an update from the contribution board saying that Eugene had disputed my case, claiming that I was only an intern and thus exempted from the law. This jerk was playing dirty as a last attempt to steal from me. As I had mentioned, Eugene thought of himself as a smart man and probably felt that the officer would rule the case in his favor, since he had world-class convincing skills and his vague contract would have protected him either way. Fine, Eugene. So you think you can get away just like any other time? You must have gotten pretty confident by now. Well, not this time, Eugene. I wrote a 2 pages long email to the contribution board officer with every reason and evidence I can find on how am I not an intern, like Eugene claimed. Knowing his antics, I went the extra mile to research all the exempted group and wrote every possible reason on how am I not in the category. Excessive? Yes. Worth it? Hell yes. I didn't hear from the officer for 2 weeks, and when I finally did, he informed me that Eugene had agreed to pay my contributions. Remember when I said employers are permitted to deduct a certain percentage from employees' wages? Due to his negligence, Eugene could no longer do that and had to pay the full amount on top of the fines that incurred along with it. If he had dutifully abided by the law, it would have only costed him 1/3 of what he had to pay. So that's a bit of asshole tax for you, Eugene. Now that I've gotten back what I was owed, I have decided to move on. But the story did not end there. An ex-colleague of mine, NJ, who is still working for Eugene, told me that during the 2 weeks I didn't hear from the officer, Eugene was busy fighting for his stand by giving every reason that I am an exempted individual. The officer, having seen my email, soon got tired of his nonsense and gave him a deadline to pay up or he'll be brought to court. NJ said he had never seen Eugene so defeated before. To top it off, it seemed like karma had finally caught up to him as he started losing more and more clients due to his unethical practices. The fine came to him when he had no clients that month, so it was a very obvious dent in his bank account. Ultimately, it was not a huge amount, but knowing Eugene's stinginess and ego, I think the damage was enough to qualify for this sub. Dispatcher refuses to send van in for maintenance. Gets forced to change my tire while I enjoy dinner on company time. Hey all. So this is my first story on here that is squarely just a revenge. I honestly think it's a bit more pro than petty, but not really critical enough to go full nuclear, so here I am. This story is one of how a lowly delivery driver got to royally irk a dispatcher, waste his time, get 4 hours of overtime, meal paid for, and a free beer. TL. Doctor below for your pleasure. So I was a driver for a little company that rhymes with Amazon. I had been there for several months by this point and had developed a reputation of being very anal about vehicle maintenance. We aren't talking like washing them or whatnot, but cleaning out urine bottles, fixing broken wiper blades, installing lights to replace the burnt out ones, or other stuff that would indicate you actually remotely care for your driver's well-being. Seriously guys, I had a van once with no working lights of any kind, and the passenger side door fell off its hinges right in front of my dispatchers, and they still sent me out. Needless to say, some trips were better than others, but this particular time, well, it was a doozy. You see, friends, I was considered a problem driver by some for being obsessed with vehicles being kept road legal. I had not caused any issues other than this. We had dispatchers that were promoted up after a month, and after hitting mailboxes, cars, and other kinds of insanity, but I was always skipped over. This naturally irked me to no end, and I was looking for better within 6 months of starting. I was there for nearly 2 years. Naturally, all my requests for the essential equipment and urine bottle removal was denied, so I'd buy bulbs for my van and pull them out after my route was done, so I could put them into the next one the next day, and I chucked piss bottles out on the record. Kinda gross, but better than smelling it in the hot Georgia sun in the middle of summer in a van with sometimes working AC. This nonsense continued for the entirety of my time there, of course. This event however was the first of many times I decided to get back at the dispatchers for messing with my routes and giving me the worst vans, and so on. You see, this van had the lights that were bad, broken AC, shook like mad, squeaked, smelled like piss, and musty taco farts. Door didn't properly lock so anybody could have stole packages from it, and not much could be done. And to top this all off, 4 bad tires, like metal bands exposed and one bulging out in its death throes. The whole day, I babied this van as best I could, putting air in the tire a few times, and just barely finished my route with some daylight to spare. So, 10 hours on the road down, and an hour and a half back to the distribution center. I get underway, and get about halfway, before I felt a telltale shake of a tire going out. Well shit, here we go, I say to myself, and scan my surroundings. I'm on the interstate, and not very far from an off-ramp. So with what little tire I have left, I limp off the ramp, and to a parking lot, which is right next to an Applebee's. Perfect luck, all things considered. I call dispatch, and give my exact location, and tell them what happened. The conversation goes as thus. Me Chucket Bucket 007. Hello, again guys. Dipfuck dipshit dispatcher. That's it. Me hey, I got a flat over here at my location. Dipfuck what? How? Me because you sent me out in a van that needed tires. Dipfuck fine. Whatever. Everyone has gone home. So you are gonna have to wait till I get there. Me sure. That's fine. I'll stay clocked in. Then. Dipfuck aha. You finished your route. So I don't see why you would be on the clock. Me because I'm still in command of this vehicle. I have the keys. And if you want me to give it back, you are going to keep me on the clock. I had called the company hours and explained everything before I called dispatcher, and they ensured me that my time would be recorded. Dipfuck. Fine. I have things to do tonight, so we gotta hurry up. Perfect. Time to screw with this guy. After giving him extremely vague directions while I enjoy a steak meal and a large beer on the clock and no fucks given anymore, he finally finds it. I go out there and see that he has brought the smallest, saddest, most not suitable for the task jack in the center. Me well get to it. You made me leave with this van, and you can change the tire. Dipfuck nah, you were driving it, and I interject. Me drivers are not allowed, but company policy to perform repairs to the van. He had yelled at me previously for doing this with the bulbs. Only dispatch, management, maintenance, and the repair shop can repair the van. So I walk away to finish my meal while he tries to fix this flat with a jack barely able to lift the front of the vehicle and needed bricks and other items to even go high enough. In total, I wasted 4 hours of his time, cost him time to smoke up, and he missed the game that he apparently had money on. I got my meal effectively for free with the hefty overtime I got that week. And as an extra smackdown, corporate came in and fired the manager, assistant manager, and this particular dispatcher for failure to maintain the vehicles to DOT standards and for mismanaging the DSP, delivery service provider. After my lovely chat with ours during the incident, I showed them the text messages and some of the recorded audio I had taken of dispatcher being a general Dow Checano. A week later, and we had a temp management comprised of corporate operations that would oversee the vans getting replaced with less shitty ones, training new management, and of course, giving training on what to do if you have a vehicle fail like that, and granting drivers some maintenance permissions. TL. Doctor, make me drive a van that is unfit for service? I will enjoy a hot meal, overtime, all while you have to fix the flat, and you still get fired. Close bracket. Edit. On mobile, so pardon the grammar and sentence structure. Edit 2. Holy crap, guys. I did not expect to have so many of you take the time to read this. Thank you so much. Edit 3. I have stories about my time at Blockbuster, Walmart, HP, Auntie Anne's, Slamazon, an Italian restaurant as a delivery driver, and plenty others that I would be happy to share. Feel free to ask. Edit 4. TL. Doctor hopefully is a bit more accurate now. Also, thanks for the silver, whoever you are. Thank you all for watching. Please make sure you like and subscribe for more videos. The funniest comment on this video will appear in the next video. Bye.